All right, everybody, we are back with part 2 of the Rainstick, a Fable by Sandra Chisholm Robinson with the illustrations by Peter Grosshauser. Chapter 2, The Journey. The boy had been pursuing the horizon for many suns. Sometimes he grew angry and frustrated, thinking the storyteller must have tricked him. The line where the sky and the earth came together never seemed any closer. The land through which the boy passed was like his homeland. The brown, prickly stubble poked through the sides of his flat sandals. He woke early and walked until the heat of the day made him see shimmering things that weren't really there. One day, when he had not found water, he saw his mother. As her image wavered in the heat, she held out a calabash from which sparkling water flowed. He ran towards her, but after a few steps, the heat brought him to his knees. When he looked up, she had vanished. After that, he rested in the shade of a large rock or tree during the heat of the day and only traveled when the sun was lower in the sky. At night, he searched for a tree in which to sleep. One evening, as the sky was tinted purple and gold, he selected a baobab tree. This, his people called it, the upside-down tree, for the twisted web of branches looked like roots. The trunk was thick and scarred by elephants that gouged the wood with their tusks for its precious water. The boy picked the green, fuzzy fruit that hung from a long stem. He pounded it on a rock until the fruit cracked open. He dug out the seeds and sucked the white powder that surrounded them. He savored the sour, tangy flavor and finally spit out the brown seeds. The next morning, he woke to find a pride of lions resting at the base of the baobab. Oh, wow. The boy remembered a tale from the storyteller of a man who understood the language of animals. The boy talked quietly to the lions, showing them the storyteller's feather, and he asked if they knew of the place of the rain. The lions were full after a night of hunting and only perked their ears at the sound made by the boy. They lazily swatted insects with their tails, and the mothers licked their cubs with rough tongues. The boy waited patiently in the tree until the lions wandered off. Finally, he too renewed his journey. One day, he was fortunate enough to come upon the nests of the large birds that sometimes roared like lions. The boy was only half as tall as the birds. Their eggs were of great size. When a bird left its nest to feed, the boy quickly snatched an egg. He cracked it open. The runny insides tasted so good. As the distance between the boy and the village grew, the land changed. The grass grew thicker, greener, and taller. He did not have to search so hard for a tree to sleep in at night. The boy sometimes saw large villages, but because he was a stranger, he did not enter them. Water became easier to find. Like the other animals, he waited his turn at the water holes while the elephants and lions and silent giraffes drank. Birds swooped in great flocks to sip from the pools, the blue waters muddied by the herds. The boy fished in the rivers. Where the waters were low, the fish were trapped in small pools, and he easily scooped them up with his fish weir. But his fishing was not carefree. He was always watchful of the grinning crocodile and the hippopotamus that jealously guarded their territory. Although he now suffered neither hunger nor thirst, the boy worried about the many suns that had come and gone. His absence was likely another burden for his father and mother to bear. Perhaps the rains had come, but in the part of himself that was always connected to his people, he knew they had not. At first light of the new day, the boy walked through the tall grass. He saw something which broke the line between the earth and the sky. He moved toward it. It was a gently rounded mountain. He could climb it. Perhaps he could see the way to the land of the rain. From the top of the mountain, he surveyed the country before him. In the distance was a forest. He had found the place of the rain. It took 2 more suns to reach the great trees. The boy waded through low shrubby plants that stroked his waist and legs. He approached the strange forest slowly. He felt pounding in his chest. His breath came quickly. His mouth was so dry he couldn't spit. The storyteller had told tales of this feeling. People who faced leopards felt it. The boy turned his thoughts from himself to the thirsty villagers, to the storyteller, to his mother and father. Now he drew strength from his fear. He approached the great trees. He thought, I am like an ant to the elephant. Inside, the forest was moist and comforting, unlike the glare of the hot white sun. The boy leaned his head back and looked into the mass of branches and leaves that seemed to grow into the sky. Sometimes the sun broke through the leaves that grew at the very tops of the trees and drew patterns on the forest floor. The floor was littered with sticks, leaves, and the remains of fruit that had fallen or had been dropped by animals foraging in the treetops. He picked up a piece of discarded fruit, smelled it, and took a tiny bite. He chewed it slowly and swallowed. He waited to see what his stomach thought. Feeling no cramps, he shrugged and ate the whole thing. After he finished, he licked the sweet juice from each finger. As the light became softer in the forest, he knew he must find a place to sleep. He found a tree with rough gray bark like the skin of the elephant. The boy thought it must be a grandfather tree. Many people holding hands in a circle could not reach around it. Grasping a vine the size of a man's arm, the boy climbed up. A wide lower branch formed a shelf close to the great trunk. Here the boy curled up and waited for sleep. In the growing darkness, the sounds of the forest pressed closer to the boy. Shrill screams and gentle cooing filled the damp night. Insects whined and buzzed. Occasionally he heard the low rumble of the throat of a stalking leopard or the shrieks of quarreling monkeys. But it was another sound that caused the boy's heart to beat painfully in his chest. The moist air of the forest carried the voices of talking drums.